What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Thank you for tuning in to episode 30 of the Daily Dose podcast. Don't forget, this podcast is sponsored by Jackpack LLC as well as 1GM Construction. Tap in with them in the Albuquerque and surrounding areas for all your roofing and construction needs. It's going to be a great show today, guys. We got some UFC fights coming up. Of course, we didn't have any over the past weekend. Lots of current topics from the last week. Tons of stuff to go over. Let's get right into it, guys. Let's check out this UFC Perth. Of course, fights in other places cater to that side of the world. Jamie Malarkey's on there. Justin Tafa, Jake Matthews, Jimmy Crute, Jack Jenkins. There's some decent fights on there. Of course, the main event is Carlos Ulberg versus Dominic Reyes. Reyes is actually on a good winning streak as of lately. We'll break down the main card, I guess. Heavyweight. I saw something, maybe because it shows it's still on here. I thought Tafa pulled out, but if he's still on there, we're going to take Tafa. We're going to go Jake Matthews over Neil Magny. Magny's just always a dog. I'm taking Neil Magny over Jake Matthews. I'm taking Jimmy Crute over Ivan Ursulin. I'm taking Jack Jenkins over Ramon Tavares. And I'm going with Dominic Reyes. I know Ulberg's doing pretty good as of late as well, but I think Dominic really has found himself again, kind of got past the whole should have won and this and that. So it could be a decent card. Like I said, overall, not terrible. I'm assuming it's going to be probably at a random time, so we'll have to check it out and see. But yeah, there wasn't any past fights from this past weekend, rather, so nothing to go over besides that. Lots of current topics, guys. It's going to be all over. Some funny stuff. Lots of stuff, like I said. So let's get to it. First thing we got on the board, Ashton Hall. Now, a lot of people know this fitness influencer, Ashton Hall. As of late, he's been posting some really weird videos. And what I mean by weird is it's one thing to share your journey and motivate people and show them you can go from here to here, you know what I mean? And you'll be all good and you'll make it and whatnot. That's really good to do. But we all know he's already living good, very successful, making it. And he's making all these skits of being a construction worker, of being this, of being that. So I don't know if that's not actually you. To me, that's just disingenuous. The Amazon one, like, you're not doing skits. He's showing like then and now. And it's like, well, you never even did any of that. Or maybe you did, but I'm sure you didn't quite do everything. So, and if you did, though, like I said, in the moment it would be cool. But to redo it after the fact, I don't know. Just a little weird. I thought it was very random. Now, the UFC recently comes out and kind of breaks down a lot of stuff on the White House card, right? And so now that it's being talked about, dates and stuff like that, which we're going to go into here shortly, DC comes out and he had a great point. He really wants John Jones on there, and obviously putting their beef aside and everything like that, it's just due to he wants there to be an American champion. When you think about it right now, there is no U.S. champions in the UFC. What a sport. What a worldwide sport it is for that to be the case. So that definitely, at least on the men's side, that's what he's hoping to have. So it was interesting, though. So DC's really been trying to tell, Dana White, come on, man, let's do this. Let's make that happen. So I'll be curious to see if he ends up breaking and putting him on there. We'll get into some more on the White card here kind of later in the show. So NBA Youngboy, Kai Cenat, and all his squad and guys literally have been posting videos crying and damn near crying at the NBA Youngboy concert. Guys, what the hell is wrong with y'all? Like, it's dope. I mean, honestly, I've never listened to any of his songs. I couldn't name one. But, I mean, if you're there's no person on earth where I would see in person and start crying and stuff. Y'all got to knock it off, so that stuff is wild. I saw that he's performing in Chicago, and they're doing like a no bag policy period, not even clear ones. That's potential for some drama. So hopefully all is well. Pretty crazy though. So of course, obviously on my podcast, I always get questions about this and that. So I wanted to briefly kind of go over my journey in combat sports. So obviously, like most people, just in the streets and knucklehead, always down. And then I actually started training in gyms. I started training in boxing gyms here out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I started training at Gracie. And then eventually I trained most of my time of actually serious training at Jackson Wink, And of course, my journey just being around the greatest, highest level athletes, seen some of the coolest stuff, been around some of the coolest people, learned a lot. Only got to compete once. I ended up breaking my back, not due to combat sports, and I don't know if it ever happened, but I put in tons of work. I really believed I was going to be something. I watch all types of sports. I study combat sports on an amateur level, professional level, the regional shows, UFC, kickboxing, boxing, all of that. So compared to the average person, I would say as far as rules, regulations, breaking down a fight, I know a lot more than your average. And I don't say that in an arrogant way, just I'm trying to break stuff down and inform and go over things. So sometimes goofy people try and call you out. Doesn't bother me because I know what I'm talking about. With that, kind of my purpose of my podcast, more than anything, I just want to get people's stories out there. As of right now, I got my main pod, going over entertainment, going over fights. I want to do interviews. Hopefully the channel gets big enough I can go behind the scenes and cover fighters and really help them get their stories out there. Because what a lot of people don't realize is this. They see a fighter on TV, they see a guy in the UFC, and they assume he's rich, right? Most guys are on a 12-12 contract when they start in the UFC. So what you got to realize is this, guys. Fighting for $12,000, if they lose, still got to pay taxes, manager, gym fees, all that stuff. For a 3-month camp, they're probably behind on some bills. They're only going to end up making a few $1,000s, okay? The UFC is the longest reigning successful MMA organization without a doubt. And why is that? Because they have a formula and they know how to make it work in a business sense. Me, you, the average media people, you're never going to change that. That's why I tell these dorks you're wasting your time. What we can do is highlight these fighters, their journey, and help them brand and get themselves out there to make some money besides and beyond just fighting. So that's stuff that I would like and stuff that I want to do because I know what it's like. I've seen these fighters day in and day out. I've personally, had full-time job, bring my kids. I really was chasing it. But I've seen people that live there, that full-time, that come from amateur to end up being a pro. I understand what the grind is like. I know what these guys go through. I know how much they put in. And so I want to highlight and explain that to people who don't. So just something I thought I'd go over, break it down a little bit for you guys. That way we're all on the same page. Of course, I like to do funny stuff and entertain and maybe talk a little trash. But overall, I would love to go behind the scenes and get people's stories out there. Now, Adrian Broner, I don't know if you guys saw this last week. He was on a Cameron podcast with Mace, and the co-host happened to be this younger female who Broner was attracted to. He was obviously drunk, probably, smoking. He was definitely turned. And he kept hitting on her, and he's 20, 15 years older than her. And Cameron kept getting on to him, trying to tell him to stop. Eventually, Cameron busted out his money, paid him for his time, and kicked him off the pod. And then Broner tried to be more apologetic and, all right, I'll chill. And no, it's too late. Then when he leaves and he's outside of it, trying to kind of get Cameron's attention, Cameron starts cussing, going off, turning this big old thing. Now, guys, come on. Like, someone like Broner, it's sad to see, right? At one time, he was literally one of the best fighters, 4-division champ, bad dude, but he's always struggled with the discipline and being in the streets and partying and living that life, and it's sad to see. He also has, a discipline issue with his diet. Sometimes he would get huge out of camp, but he was truly one of the most talented boxers, and he could have really done something with it. So it's sad to see, but yeah, Cameron totally has the right. He brought him out there, he paid him, and Buddy just ruined the episode by acting a fool. Obviously, would Cameron get beat up by him? Probably, right? But he's pissed. He ruined the podcast. And like I said, it's sad to see. Hopefully he can get it together, but who knows? Now, we had Conor Brand versus Chris Eubank Jr. presser last weekend. One of the big things that stood out from the presser is Chris Eubank Jr. is one of the most boring talkers in boxing history. Well, Conor, I think that you really just don't know. And I could eat a cheeseburger all camp and really still come out there and do that. Like, dog, shut up. He is so boring. It's crazy. Hopefully Conor Brand learning, come out there and get him out of there. But he's just definitely, he comes off as just a goofball. He really thinks he's the shit, but, these are kind of his biggest fights, and Conor's way smaller than him. So Settle down, buddy. Now, like I was saying, the White House card details, super cool. So Dana was saying fighters are going to be walking out from the Oval Office. All the background, you're going to have the Washington Monument in the background. Each side of the cage is going to have super cool setup. Now, the main thing, they moved it to June. I guess none of us even thought about this. On 4th of July, outside, there's going to be tons of fireworks going around. That would be super distracting for the fighters, hearing all that noise, seeing all those explosions. So they moved it to June. That makes sense. They said logistics. I'm thinking like that. You can't have a fireworks show going on in the background. That would be super distracting. Now, of course, Conor says he's down. Dana White says he wants Conor McGregor. Is the main event Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler? I really don't know. I feel like we've seen Conor for the last time in the UFC. I had the pleasure of being there when he broke his leg. But just everything he does, his life he lives, the accomplishments, the money he's got, I just don't see him going into full grind mode into a camp. Maybe, being the caliber and the size of the event, and he says he wants to be on it. If he does sign on the dotted line, besides the first time with Chandler, he's always came through. He locks in. I just don't know. Like I said, he's always partying. He's doing this BKFC stuff. He got all this stuff going on. Does he actually dial in and do what he needs to do? If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say no. That would definitely be a hell of a card, though. Get John Jones, get Conor, get as many big names as you can. So we'll see what happens. The UFC lightweight division. Now, Steve Garcia, shout outs to him, local Jackson boy. He's going to be main eventing here in October at the Apex. Crazy to see, at one time he didn't even get the contract on Dana White's Contender Series to now he's just on a beautiful win streak, coming into his own, really feeling comfortable in there. Super cool to see. Now, it's so funny. It's back and forth. I keep telling you guys different stuff because I keep hearing different stuff all the time. Now it seems like Arman Tsarukyan is hinting that he's going to be fighting Dan Hooker in a main event here soon. That's a pretty wild card. I mean, that's an easy fight for Tsarukyan. I hate to say it. He's just going to go in there and take him down and smash him like Islam, like some of these other wrestlers have done to him. That means Ilya and Paddy is still the one thing that it seems like it's on the table. So who knows? I know Ilya says he doesn't want to compete till early next year. Arman's fighting supposedly before that. We'll kind of see what happens. But that lightweight division is kind of getting a little entertaining again. Obviously Charles was supposed to fight against Rafael Fiziev. Rafael Fiziev pulls out. We thought Benoit St. Denis was going to step in. His manager say, no, that's not happening. So we'll have to see what happens with that. We got some boxing matches coming up. Floyd Kid Schofield versus Joey Diaz. Again, just kind of see where Floyd's at, but I think he'll probably get a finish in that fight. Joey is always a tough competitor. Just kind of shows these younger guys where they're at. Frank the Ghost Martin is coming back from Tank turning him into a ghost to fight Rancis Barthenemy on the Sebastian Fondura card. So that'll be interesting to see. It's always cool to see how a guy comes back after a big knockout like that. He was undefeated, confident, rolling through people, and then Tank absolutely turned him into a ghost. So we'll see what happens. Brock Lesnar was at a wrestling event this past weekend. Absolutely jacked, juiced to the gills, guys. Shout outs to him. Yes, he puts in work. That's why he's so jacked. But that boy is on every steroid known to man, and it's just not good for your body, guys. He looks insane. Now, I heard, guys, originally I heard Donald Cerrone was going to be fighting Andrew Tate. Now it looks like it's about 75-80% done. Darren Till versus Andrew Tate. I don't know what Andrew Tate is thinking, but he's got some balls. But I think that does not go good for him. I think Cowboy being a little smaller was a better fight. I think Darren Till, especially what he just did to Rockhold, I don't know what would make him want to go in there, but probably a big paycheck. Now, this Singer David, D4VD, guys, I don't know what is wrong with people. Let me tell you this. If any of my homeboys at 18, 19 years old would try to bring a 15-year-old girl around, they got smacked upside their head. Some of you guys are just weirdos. That situation shouldn't even happen. Then she ends up, unfortunately found dead in his vehicle. Kind of a mystery, kind of not. The thing about it is there's people that live stream have these people that clip everything, right? Clippers to get views. Now people are going back and posting all these clips from when they used to stream his live streams, putting them together, putting some weird situations out there. guys, you got to do better than that. We got to protect people. You know what I mean? He shouldn't even have been hanging out with her on a regular, making songs about her. There's some weird stuff on streams where people around should have ended that relationship right there. So shame on them. Hopefully he gets life in prison, and he'll be having a hard time every day as he deserves. Guys, what in the Florida? One of the most Florida things I've ever heard. A man comes into the Disney Springs restaurant in a scuba suit, robs the place, jumps in the ocean to dip out. Bro, what is that? Is some James Bond, Grand Theft Auto all in one, man. That is just absolutely nuts. I was dying on that. Man, he just won't stop, guys. BJ Penn really recently posted a video mething around. Go look at this guy. He's with 2-3 meth heads in some random place in Hawaii. Guys, I don't know how someone ends up like that, man. It's really, really sad to see. He needs some serious help, guys. Somebody who knows this man, help him, please. Let's get into some hot takes and some drama. We got Oscar De La Hoya talking shit on Canelo after losing to Crawford. Buddy, you'd get spanked by both of them. You're always all, booger sugared out of your mind, huge eyes, all crazy and stuff. Bro, Canelo went in there and chased greatness. It happens, buddy. I remember Floyd spanked you like a stepchild. We've seen you get whooped plenty of times. Stop that, please, okay? You little goofball, man. The thing about it is anybody in a position of success, and he's always like celebrating people's downfalls. That you got to be some sick, weird dude. Like, if you're really successful and accomplished, you should just enjoy that and not be so bitter at people. Definitely a weirdo. I saw Nick Cannon's baby mom is mad. She's saying he hasn't seen their baby in over a month. Ma'am, he has 17 kids or 14. You're in the queue, right? If he gives each kid 2-3 days, it's going to take a while to get back to you. Do the math, ma'am. You should have probably thought about that before you had a kid with him. I'm like, what do you think, he can just be everywhere? He has 17 kids and counting, so wait your turn, man. Ray J, he was on Kai Cenat's Mafia 3 stream, whatever it is. This guy needs to go to prison. Straight weirdo, pedophile. He starts tickling one of the kids with a feather and gets a boner. My boy, what is wrong with you? Like, that is just, I don't even know what is wrong with that guy. He needs some serious help. Gilbert Burns, he announces that he wants 1 or 2 more fights and then he's ready to call it. He's had a great career. He said him and his wife have made some great financial investments. Shout outs to him. I think I've said it on here before, but when my mom passed, maybe not, he reached out through a person I know who trained with him and gave me some words of encouragement. And I don't think he realized in that moment how much it meant to me and really helped. So shout outs to him. But he's financially secure. He's had a great career. He's ready to go. Gotta love it. Now, this guy 50 Cent, talk about just being everywhere, being that guy. He's coming out with 50 ways to catch a killer on CBS. 50 cents, 50 ways to catch. This guy he's just on top of everything, man. It's crazy. I mean, all his shows, I'm fans of all of them. Super creative. He was always right when people are weirdos, so gotta rock with 50. Guys, before we get out of here, we went over a ton of current topics. Some fights coming up this weekend. We're going to get out of here on the message of the week. Some things in life are meant for you to go through alone. Just you and God. It's required to get to the next level. Hold on tight and ride out the storm. Greatness is on the other side. And if you avoid that, you're not going to get there, guys. There's things you got to go through to learn, go through them struggles to figure out who you are and what you're made of. You got it, guys. I appreciate everybody so much. Thank you for all the support, guys. Episode 30 of the Daily Dose podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you guys next week.